The one who used to talk to them even also. He used to go to the sick ones, talk to them, pray with them and so on. So he was really nice for them.
In 1984, Wentworth took up residence in Swakopmund as the principal of Tamariskia Primary School. Here, he became increasingly involved in politics as an activist in his own right. The 80s were a precarious time in the country, with the arrest and detention of thousands of activists around the country by the then colonial apartheid regime under notorious laws. The security forces monitored the presence of those seen to sympathize with the liberation movement, and their lives were in grave danger. Wentworth could have chosen a life of comfort, but he risked it all.
I met Buddy, he was a school principal then at, what was the school called now, I can't remember. And he was quite an active member of the community, an outgoing, active member of the community. I was at some time elected to the leadership of the rugby team called, why did I forget the rugby team now? Goodness me. Anyway, so we met socially first, and we you know, he is that kind of person that takes you in, really, and we started there and we became very good friends. And as I was active in the party, in the leadership, almost the top leadership of the party, those days under the tutelage of the late comrade Makwilili, the comrade Aser Perez, and many others, and as I said, Kamwa and others. You know, we intensified. We were in the process of intensifying the struggle, the liberation struggle. And one of the things that we have decided to do, then we resolved, was to mobilize, but of course to recruit more members for the party. And I spoke to Buddy about this, and like I said, it was like talking to a converted person already. It didn't take me long, really, to invite him.
A lot of coloured people before that, Namibian coloureds, were anti-SWAPO simply because that was the propaganda and the rhetoric that was pushed. And mostly people don't think about things. They listen to what they are told and they believe that. And my father created the space to engage beyond the rhetoric. And I think that was very important.
With the intensification of the war for liberation, the end of the Cold War, and economic sanctions against the apartheid regime, South Africa's intransigence was finally cracked. SWAPO, the liberation movement, agreed to participate in a UN-supervised election in 1989. For the activists at home, this period heralded the intensification of the mobilization of the Namibian people to participate in free and fair elections. Buddy Wentworth and his coastal compatriots were on high alert.
Buddy helped us to unite the people of Swakopmund and to rally behind the party. You remember that first elections. And one particular incident that I remember really where Buddy played a huge role was when we organized the Star Rally for Dr. Hage Geingob. You know, when he came as a prelude to, he was sent by the founding father to check and test the waters, you know. He had meetings. I think, if I remember correctly, the one in Swakopmund was the second of his meetings. And it was a resounding success. We had members from all walks of life, from whites, blacks. You know, it was a huge success. And that's one where Buddy really showed his uncanny and his administrative and organizational skills, and for which we are forever indebted to him.
The first time I met Bandy Wentworth was actually in 1989. We had the Star Rally for SWAPO in Swakopmund. Buddy Wentworth came up with a basket full of doves. And as we were promoting reconciliation and peace, he released these doves during that rally. And you could see that Buddy Wentworth was a jovial person, very jovial, and very, very caring, so to say.
For his role in rallying behind the cause for freedom and actively mobilizing thousands to join, Buddy Wentworth became a prominent member of the internal movement. His name featured at number 36 on the SWAPO party list of candidates for the Constituent Assembly. After the party gained 41 seats in the watershed elections of 1989, Buddy Wentworth became a member of the body responsible for drafting Namibia's model constitution. In the first executive of post-independent Namibia, President Sam Nuoma appointed him the first Deputy Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports.
I worked with the late Bantu Wentworth for 15 years, good 15 years. Our task was to reform the Namibia education system. And Bantu Wentworth was like my elder brother, as we were put together by the founding president to work in the area of education, in the area of culture, and the area of sport at the very beginning.
The task was indeed daunting. Merging 11 education systems run by different administrations into a cohesive national system as per the new constitutional order was of paramount importance. Thereafter, the team had to introduce a new curriculum by adopting the Cambridge education system and dissolving the inferior Cape education system, something they were heavily criticized for.
We had challenges there, especially when we were dismantling the 11 education administrations. There was a group of people who were working for the white administration. And as we were restructuring, of course, they were resisting. So they used to say to barricade themselves in a building which they are called Marinief. Bantu Wentworth would go there and talk in Afrikaans to them, that they should be part of the team. And he actually succeeded to convince them. In that way, at least we were able to reach out to these people who were caught, so to say, in historical inertia.
Another item on the agenda was to integrate teachers from exile into the system and the adoption of the new medium of instruction, English. Things that were met with much resistance by the sector.
Because they never expected that there would be so dramatic changes in the country. So his approach to people, his way of doing things, was able to enable us to communicate to a wider educational community, especially those who were resisting change.
On top of this role, Wentworth knew from his teaching days that sport had the power to help transform a new nation and enhance social cohesion. He got involved in athletics at national level as the first president of Athletics Namibia. In this role, Wentworth managed to secure Namibia's membership to the International Olympics Committee within 1 year and not the required 4 years. This enabled Namibia's participation at the 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games, which saw Namibian athlete Frank Fredericks walk away with 2 silver medals in the 100-meter and 200-meter races. He was also significant in founding the National School Sports Union and TISAN as a platform for grooming students to become exceptional athletes. In later years, Wentworth became the chairperson of the Franco-Namibia Cultural Centre. Because of his efforts, the French government recognized him by awarding him the Ordre de Palmes Académique, an award bestowed upon individuals for their significant contribution towards the enhancement of French national culture and education.
When the portfolio of sports was taken away from us and the Ministry of Sport was created, Badi concentrated on culture. And he actually was the one who started the French Cultural Center. He was the chairman of that center. And it was actually through his effort that the center got off the ground, and the French government recognized that, and they gave him French recognition.
While he received it as a chairperson of the French Cultural Center, it's also because of his work in the National Commission that were interrelated to his work at the French Cultural Center.
What was the name?
Wentworth took on more functions, and one of them was the establishment of the National Commission for UNESCO in Namibia, a body he chaired. In this role, he spearheaded Namibia's recognition of two of Namibia's landmarks, namely Tweefontein and the Namib Sand Sea, now inscribed as World Heritage Sites under UNESCO's Heritage Sites listing. Another project he was fond of was the Street Children's Program.
One particular project that he was involved in was the Street Children Project. As you might be aware, education and children were his passionate. In this case, the project entailed taking the children that are on the street and integrating them back into the schools. This is not an easy process. It involves some training for those people that are dealing with those children so that they can understand the psychology and the thinking of these children, as well as providing them shelter. In this case, it was more of taking the children from the street, providing for them shelter. We had a home in Eros for these children, while in the process of integrating them into the school. It's important for us because normally people don't look about the street children understanding what they are going through. That's why this process of educating them was important for him, and eventually some of them were integrated in the school and managed to proceed up to university level at the Polytechnic, where they graduated and so on.
Wentworth eventually retired from official politics in 2005 as one of the longest-standing parliamentarians and served in the executive as Deputy Minister for 15 years. Even in this august house, he left an indelible mark.
Then we go to Parliament. He was a keen debater. He was a keen listener. He would sit there with a small paper when you make your speech. Then he say, I give you A+. Then when an opposition member makes a contribution, he will say, you are ungraded. You don't even deserve a D or something like that. But that was just to liven up the debate in Parliament.
But his ideology was always to liberate education from the apartheid system, coming from an aggressive political background in South Africa into a more subtle political arena in Namibia. He managed to strike a balance and use aggressive diplomacy to reach his goal by assisting in closing the gap between the racial divide.
My father recognized, in my opinion, was that there was no solution in segregation. The solution was to actively bridge the divide between you and I. And I think that was a motivator, or big motivator, for his joining SWAPO and introducing a colored community to that ideology.
Buddy Wentworth's life was colored with moments that have left impressions on everyone he encountered. He never stopped learning, and in return, never stopped teaching.
As much as my father had the knowledge, he never believed that he had the answers. He was always striving for more knowledge. He was always willing to read up and find out about the alternative view. And for me, that's a mark of exceptional intelligence, when you can engage with a thought that is not necessarily something you believe in, but you can engage in the value of a different opinion without just dismissing it.
I like to talk nice about people when they're no more there. I'm not really doing that. But Wentworth was just a nice person. I have worked with many deputy ministers, but he was different.
Buddy is a good friend. Buddy is or was someone who you could easily talk to. You know, he was a teacher. He was a master. He was eloquent. And he had a great sense of humor. That is true. And you know, with Buddy, you see him almost the first time, and it's like you've known him all your life.
Buddy Wentworth had a very soft spot for needy children. He had a soft spot for children at large. I remember at a farewell function of the matriculants of the school way back in the 90s, when he was already then the Deputy Minister of Basic Education, Sports and Culture. I remember this telling the children, remember that the day when you open your eyes up in this world, and you opened it up in a tin house, it was not your fault. But after 20 years, when you're still residing in a tin house, I'm gonna blame you. It would be your fault.
Mr. Wentworth, come back and teach me again English.
My father practiced the Muslim faith. It was because he wanted to get buried on the day he died.
He is survived by his 10 children, grandchildren, and 2 dogs.
I think Uncle Buddy was always young at heart. You know, he had the joke that he was eternally 39. And yeah, wherever he is, I just hope, you know, that he's happy with Auntie Miriam. He loved Auntie Miriam dearly. And yeah, I just tell him, you know, all those last years, I know he missed her lots over the years. I hope that they're just having a great time together. And that they are dancing and singing. And yeah, that he rests well. And that the two of them are having a really good time together, because we always had a really good time with him.
Nights alone since you went away, I think about you all through the day, my buddy. My buddy, nobody quite so true. Miss your voice, touch of your hand, long to know that you understand, my buddy, my buddy, your buddy misses you. your buddy misses you. I miss your voice, touch of your hand, and I long to know that you understand, my buddy, my buddy, your buddy misses